I'm Zack White, and I read the book and The Unschooled Mind, How Children Think and How Schools Should Teach by Howard Gardner. Howard Gardner, he was born on July 11, 1943 in Scranton, Pennsylvania. He was a studious child who gained much pleasure from playing the piano. He got his post-secondary education from Harvard. In 1965, he got his undergraduate degree, and in 1971, his Ph.D. He had planned on studying law, but was inspired by the works of Erik Erikson and Jean Piaget to study development psychology. He was a professor at Harvard Graduate School of Education. 3 books of great significance to education by Gardner: Frames of Mind, The Theory of Multiple Intelligence, The Mind's New Science, A History of the Cognitive Revolution, and The Unschooled Mind, How Children Think and How Schools Should Teach. This is a quote from Howard Gardner. "I want my children to understand the world, but not just because the world is fascinating and the human mind is curious. I want them to understand it so that they will be positioned to make it a better place." Howard Gardner, a developmental psychologist, is best known for the theory of multiple intelligences. There are 7 of these. Linguistic intelligence, that's spoken and written language. Logical and mathematical intelligence, where you analyze and investigate. Spatial intelligence, which is wide space and confined spaces. Musical intelligence, performance, composition, and appreciate. Bodily kinesthetic intelligence, using whole body parts or just hands-on. Interpersonal intelligence, understand intentions, motivations, desires of people. Interpersonal intelligence is where you understand oneself, feelings, fears, and motivations. I'm a bodily kinesthetics and logical mathematical intelligence person. If y'all remember Faith, she did the book The Short and Tragic Life of Robert Peace, and she talked about how Robert wanted to tear the radio down so he could see how it worked, and I believe that through that shows that he was a bodily kinesthetic learner and logical mathematical. He liked hands-on. Have you ever taught with a 3-year-old and come away slightly dazed at the degree of sophistication in his or her conversation? The concepts he or she understands and applies so appropriately to each situation. It is amazing that children can learn so many complex skills and abstract concepts in the first few years of life without organized instruction. Some of these skills may include oral language, comprehension, pretend play, drawing, building, numbers, music, and I'm sure you can think of many more. After the completion of a few years in school, you talk to that same child and the picture is completely different. That same child may find the school curriculum difficult and sometimes almost impossible to master. There is a lot of misery associated with school and the demands of school that children can not handle. This is what Howard Gardner's book, The Unschooled Mind, is about. Why do children who are capable of self-directed learning from birth and find it so difficult with traditional schooling? Even when students appear to succeed in mastering the school curriculum, Gardner believes that the educational mission is not fully achieved. When looking at the research, it shows that most students lack the deep understanding of the concepts they should have learned. Gardner cites specific examples in physics, biology, mathematics, economics, history, art, and literature. One example is a game they played in physics called Target. They took a college girl that had the physics class and could spit out the laws and ace her test in physics, and then they took a 2nd grader and they took these 2 kids and they had them play the game Target, which was on the computer, and they were hitting a ball, and the more angle you put on it, the faster the ball went, and the straighter you hit it, the slower it went. And it took equally the same time to learn how the game worked, about 30 minutes for the college kid and the 2nd grader to learn how the game worked. And that just shows that just because you can pass a standardized test, it does not mean that you are able to put it to practical use. Gardner's three types of learners. Universal learner, one who learns language and other symbolic systems during the early years of life, which is from birth to 7. Scholastic learner, ages 7 to 20, who seek to master the curriculum of the school. And disciplinary expert, these learners have mastered the concepts and schools of a discipline or domain and can apply that knowledge appropriately in new situations. These learners are the people who really understand in genuine ways. The book is divided into 3 parts. The first describes the development of a child from birth to 5 years. The second describes traditional school environments that 5-year-olds all over the world have to enter. The third part, Gardner proposes some creative ways in which education can change, taking into account how children think and what we would like them to be capable of after 12 years of schooling. In conclusion, Gardner's essential quest is for an education that combines a spirit of open-ended learning with rigor and structure. More direct experiences need to be provided. 2 institutions can give this winning combination, the museum and the apprenticeship. The apprenticeship learners see the reasons for learning in the practice around them. They see the development of procedures and skills in the context of design and achievement. The goals are clear and the quality of the product is evident. Museums. The learning is both active and interactive. Most of the learning, the assessments are done cooperatively. Being a physical education teacher, these are a few of the intelligence I can use: bodily kinesthetic intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence, and musical intelligence. I do agree with Gardner that children do learn in many different ways and that hands-on is a great way to fully understand the concepts that have been taught. In critique of the book, I thought he did a very good job at telling how standardized tests do not give you the best way. You need to have some kind of physical application in the real world, and he says himself that you can't, as a teacher, you can't sit down and teach all 7 intelligences because you have so many different students and you don't know. You have to sit down and figure out which way they learn, and but you do need to take time to figure out your students and see how they do learn, so at some point you can teach them in the way that they learn. But for the most part, you have to teach in the normative way where most of your students learn, the way most of your students learn.